the party stop. Never let the party stop. Never let the party stop.
Another round. 네 가슴에 스며드는 칼날 같은 sound. I like that, I like that, I like that, that, that. 내 귓가에 들려오는 supersonic wave. 내 눈앞에 펼쳐지는 3D paradise. Wanna get, wanna get, wanna get, get. Everybody put your hands up, get your hands up. Digital band.
Cutting edge to me would be things that are either experimental and kind of over the horizon, meaning that they're not quite yet ready for prime time, or they're just been developed for the mainstream and are now available, but certainly within, I don't know, maybe a couple of months, maybe 6 months at the top, 6 to 12 months.
Cutting edge has no limitations, it has endless possibilities. We need to be able to view cutting edge from a functionality point of view and ask ourselves, how can we come up with new ideas and be able to apply that to various fields in order to meet people's needs? Cutting edge is not just the hottest gadget at your local electronic retailer. It is the process of experimenting with new ideas, searching for potential, and developing ways that we can make those technologies accessible for everyone.
As an information school faculty member or a person in the information school, even a student, look at it differently than the average person out there? And yeah, I think we would. First of all, we are looking for things that have potential and that might be used or might be developed, but we being information type people. And we could look at the same thing that a general public person might look at, and we would see the implications and how that might be applied across different situations, or how it might be used in a way that it is not currently used. And I can give you an example of that if you want. Versus the average person is more looking like what's the hottest, what's the latest, what's in, not necessarily thinking quite as much about how it might be used for information management, information services, resources purposes. Well, I think we're really in some ways at the beginning, not at the end. So it looks like we've got all these technologies and all kinds of things that are now available to us. We could take the iPod and now smartphones, for example. So a couple or 3 years ago, maybe smartphones were cutting edge. Today they're more mainstream, right? So what's next? And I think you've heard me say in class that cutting edge might be devices that aren't recognized as devices, right? Your pen, that might just be your intelligent phone and communications device and everything else, something you didn't expect at all. The example I was going to give earlier relates to game technologies, the new Microsoft Xbox Connect interface, right? People are looking at that as a game interface. I look at it and see it very differently. I see it as cutting edge in terms of telecommunications, group conferencing, education, in many different ways. Whereas the mainstream might look at that as it's a cutting edge game technology, and we would look at it well beyond that in a different way. Communications technologies, which help us to contact and communicate with each other. Information technologies, which help us to store, retrieve information, make it available, represent it. And then we could talk about processing technologies that help us to process data into information, information into knowledge, and so forth. So that's a different way to look at the same question that you said. Also we hear about the term convergence, which is how different technologies come together. So communication and information used to be kind of separate technologies. If you wanted information, you could walk into a bookstore or a library. And you wanted to communicate, you had to dial up a telephone. Today, both of those capabilities are in a single device. All right. Again, in the future, maybe it's the functionality and the device is irrelevant. Maybe none of us have our own cell phones, that there are these things all over the place that just happen to be intelligent, and when you need one, you pick it up and hold it, it knows who you are, and all of a sudden it's a communication device, or the table, or the chair, or the environment that we're in ourselves. So you walk into a classroom, who knows what that'll look like, and the room knows you're there, and the instructors are there for a particular purpose and a particular technologies, and all the capabilities are immediately available to you without being tied to mine and I own it and have to own it and buy a new one. So it might be very much that the cutting edge developments related to that are, we might use the term embedded or everywhere or in all different kinds of forms.
Never let the party stop. Never let the party stop.